The domain number 2 is team. And of course, one of the things you may notice, and this is something I want to explain up front, is that you see stakeholders here and you see team here. Pay attention. These behaviors, these activities, the names are the same, but they do not intend to be the same thing, okay? So now when we go to the team, what does the performance domain team covers? Covers all the activities to address responsibilities associated with the work that must be done. The behavior of collaboration will help you to set up and manage the best possible team. What is important? It will include roles and responsibilities. So all roles and responsibilities will be covered here. So for example, if your organization do a responsibility matrix, for example, this matrix, names here, tasks here. This is an example of roles and responsibility report or roles and responsibilities matrix that people may use. I'm not saying you must use this. What I'm saying here is that you must put in place activities that make clear that everyone knows what they should be doing. Another important thing, what is a team? When I see a team, I want to highlight that there are two different teams most of the time. One is the project team. The project team is the team that is responsible to do every single work to produce the deliverables and deliver the value to the customer. This is the project team. This may have 1,000 people, may have 100 people. And then there are another team, the project management team. And what is the project management team? It's the team many times, people call this the core team. These are the team, the key team that is managing all the effort, because it will be impossible for you to manage and participate with 1,000 people, for example. So you have a project management team that is composed by 5 people, 10 people, whatever, that will be responsible for managing this team. And going back to the stakeholder, this is one stakeholder group and this is another stakeholder group. For those working in technology, working in small teams for digital products, many times, these two groups are the same group, because you don't have 1,000 people developing, for example, a product or creating a sprint or doing that. So this team and this team becomes the same. But if you are building a new airport, then it's different. This group is very different from this. Another ultra important thing is that how formal or informal should be this team. This is not a mathematical answer. There is no mathematical answer to that. What I can tell you from my experience is that when the team increases, in some ways, you need to create some more centralized management, and you need to create a little bit more formality and structure. Why? Because people need to know you cannot control, you cannot oversight this amount of people. When you have smaller teams, you can have a far easier distributed decision process, and also you can have a far less formal. It's something like, for example, on Scrum, on adaptive approach that we'll talk soon. Many times the team sits, pre-COVID, the team sits in a desk a large desk and you have everybody, and if they need to talk to each other, they just stand up and they go on a Kanban board and they just do what they need to do. However, when you are, for example, building an oil platform, when you have dozens of suppliers from all over the world, it's not simple, right? And another important thing is that when you have a team that is you, your colleagues, or maybe one supplier to develop a digital product, then it's far easier to control. But imagine that you have a supplier that brings one piece of the Webb telescope. Another supplier brings another piece. You need to have some formality about who decides, who is responsible for what, who has the authority to do something. Otherwise, it becomes just a mess. So this is exactly what we will cover on part 4, tailoring. The tailoring is exactly that, how you can create a set of structure that is capable to answer what you need to do. Another very, very critical and important thing here that is covered here is about culture. And culture is something that, for me, is becoming one of the most critical pieces of results when we talk about projects. And each organization, each team has its own culture. For example, teams using agile, teams in technology, they have a culture. If you go, for example, to the Silicon Valley, or if you go in China to Hangzhou, to see, for example, this startup environment, the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they behave, I would say the way they go to work, reflects their culture. If you go, for example, to a government, for example, area or a government building, a federal building, you look there and they have a different culture. And I'm not saying this culture is right, this culture is wrong, but you need to understand what is the culture. And I think that the best book I have ever written about that is the book about Netflix. I already said this before, but the book No Rules, Rules from Reed Hastings and Erin Meyer from INSEAD. And in this book, and if you go to the Netflix website and go jobs.netflix.com/culture, and you will see a document where Netflix say, this is what we believe. This is our core and central belief. And this is exactly the concept of roles and responsibilities. As I said, they said, the only thing you need to use to make a decision is what is in the best interest of Netflix. It's simple like that. Don't try to please your boss. This is another one. Don't try to please your boss. If you disagree with your boss, it's your duty of care, steward, to say that. You don't get silent. And this is culture. I know in many other cultures, this is a massive challenge. This is a massive challenge. I saw countries, organizations, where when the boss speaks, everybody stays silent. No single one talks anything on the top of the boss. And this is a cultural aspect. And I'm not here to say this is good, this is bad. It is what it is. But you need to understand. And you need to understand, what do I need to build? And of course, culture is not static, right? So you need to work and create activities. For example, like Netflix. They didn't start Netflix with this culture, but over time they built. And of course, this example comes from the top, comes from the management, comes from the team. So you need to understand what is our culture and how we can bring that. And this team is extremely close, of course, with the principal teams, but also with the principal stewardship. Because this is a classical human set of activities. And then, never forget integrity, trustworthiness. People need to believe in you. Respect, optimism, courage. And these among several other things. This is all here. Stakeholder and team, they are very human related. For me, to be deeply honest, all of them are very human related. But these two are absolutely at the center of that. And how you can see the triggers for the team. How you see that you are doing a nice work on that. A nice work on that. It's when the team feels ownership of the project. I'm not saying that they will have the authority to, but they feel ownership. The success of the project is part of their own success. And also, the way the team relates to each other, the sense of happiness, the sense of accomplishment. And they have critical thinking. They make decisions with open conversation, with fact base, with respect, and they agree politely to disagree. And this is how you see that you are doing this nicely. One of the things we see today, not only emotional intelligence, critical thinking, motivation, but also the concept of shared ownership. I'm not saying shared accountability. It's a different thing as we saw, but shared ownership. It's something like the success of your project is your personal success. It's something that really, really touches you deeply. And this is exactly what the Pmbok guide aims with these performance domains teams.